And to Kathy Burwell. Is this Kathy Burwell? Hi, Debbie. Hello again, Kathy. Hi, Gloria. Hi, Tara.
Okay.
Hi, Carol.
I'm not talking.
And Kim. I had not seen Kim's name show up. Welcome. Hi, Colleen. How are you? And we're waiting for someone. I can't see whose name. Well, if I missed the person that I missed, I'm waiting to see their name and it hasn't shown up. The time has come. It's noon, and I would like to greet all of you who are participating today. I hope we will have some others who will join us today. I would like to first thank the Institute of Museums and Library Services for funding this 3-year study. Also, a big thanks to the State Library and Ray Oldham for helping us, assisting us along the way to get the funding for this project. Thank you also to Rochelle Logan, our evaluator. She will not be here today. She's at ALA. Thank you to our tireless advisory committee who have met once or twice per month for 4 years. 4 years. Deborah Perisher, Nora Bird, David Wright, Martin House, Colleen Turnage, and many others who have persevered through this long endeavor. But I think your efforts are well worth it. It's my pleasure, and by the way, if I forgot anyone, please don't feel slighted, but I'm trying to get to our speaker. It's my pleasure to present today's speaker, Dr. Keith Curry Lance, our chief researcher, who is a part of RSL Consulting Group. Dr. Lance has conducted many statewide library studies. The release of this study comes at an opportune time in the history of NC Community College libraries. When I sent out the invitation email to everyone, I had 3 automatic replies that indicated that those colleges have temporarily suspended library services for various lengths during the summer. And that is a frightening thought. And Cal Shepard, I did not mention your name. Cal Shepard, our state librarian, is with us. This webinar will be recorded and it will be posted to our website. There will be a period at the end for questions. However, if you have any questions during the presentation, if you will type them in the chat box, we will make a note of them and make sure that they are addressed at the end. Also, if you've received your printed copy, let me know that as well, because we're trying to keep up with our list of recipients. And now at this time, it is my distinct honor to introduce our chief researcher and tireless consultant and our presenter for today, Dr. Keith Curry Lance.
Thanks, Reggie. Thank you all for being with us today. The other group I'd like to thank is all of you and your staff. We did a lot of surveys as a part of this project, as you're well aware, and we wouldn't have had much to talk about if so many of you and your staff had not responded to our first survey, and if you had not been so terrifically supportive in helping us get large numbers of responses from students and faculty. That was really critical to the success of this study, and we're very grateful to you for that. The study was designed by quite a few people. There was originally a very informal partnership of many of you. Reggie was part of that group, Nora was part of that group, and a number of the others on the call today. They came to us, the RSL Research Group, because of our history of doing school library impact studies and wondering if we thought we could apply the kind of research we do to the community college setting. We were happy to take up that opportunity. We had focus groups with many of you not too long after that, and that provided a lot of input that helped to shape the grant proposal that we sent to the state library. We got a lot of helpful comments from their proposal readers, and as Reggie has mentioned, we have had a really tireless advisory committee that has been very supportive and very helpful in developing and testing surveys and formulating questions and helping us get the highest response rate we could to those surveys, and also to review the report and give us feedback about it. This study was in large part instigated as a result of a big development in the community college system several years ago, when the community college system developed a set of performance measures. There are 3 of those that concern students who are on some sort of remedial path, those who need help with basic skills, those who need to get a GED diploma, or those who need particular help with English. Other performance measures concerned the broader student population, students making good first-year progress, completing their chosen curriculum, passing licensure or certification exams, or preparing to transfer to college. So we wanted to see what we could find out about the impact of community college libraries in North Carolina on each of these 7 performance measures. When we talked to you all in focus groups, a couple of different themes came through very strongly. One of them is something that in the literature about academic librarianship is referred to as embedded librarianship. As you can see in this comparison here of embedded librarianship and a more traditional approach, an embedded librarianship approach to providing service to your faculty and students is much more proactive. It involves anticipating needs rather than just responding to them, working with teams of colleagues, both within your library and among faculty, providing your services in a more customized way, supporting projects rather than just dealing with individual transactions, and serving in partnerships with other parts of your campuses rather than just providing unilateral services. We were very concerned to be sure that we were all on the same page when we talked about an abstraction like embedded librarianship. So based on other input you gave us, we asked questions about different specific kinds of activities that would have contributed to being able to say that you were practicing in some degree embedded librarianship. This included things like engaging in electronic communications with faculty and students, being involved in meetings with faculty and other departmental staff, and conducting in-depth research for faculty members. It also involves offering, in a proactive way, resources that support instruction, class reserves, developing LibGuides and other websites, and offering supplementary materials to those course might begin with that the librarian sees a need for. It also involves collaborating with and training faculty, collaborating in terms of the development of instructional units as well as the delivery of instruction, and providing professional development to faculty. And finally, it involves being active in interacting with faculty, serving as a liaison to departments, for example, or serving on project teams. Another concept that loomed large in the input you gave us was information literacy. A lot of what you talked about in those focus groups revolved around the topic of information literacy. It so happened that at the point we were beginning this project, ACRL, the Association of College and Research Libraries, was developing a new information literacy frameworks document. That's now been finalized. We worked with an early draft of it, and there were 5 aspects of information literacy that ACRL folks felt were really important. Understanding that research is an iterative process, which means that the answer to one question raises other questions, which leads to other answers and further questions. Understanding what makes information authoritative, something that's becoming more and more important in the social and political environment we live in today. Understanding how to search for information, how to choose search terms and parameters. Understanding how information formats differ from one another and the implications of that for how information is consumed. And finally, understanding how information is valued based on its source, who produced it, and how it's distributed. We talked during the focus group interviews with you all early on about ways in which teaching information literacy to community college students manifests itself in terms of the things that librarians do. And these were the kinds of things that were frequently mentioned. A lot of times people don't think of librarians as teachers. Sometimes librarians themselves don't think of themselves as teachers. And very often that's because they're not interacting with a whole class at a time, but they're dealing with students on a more one-to-one basis. Another thing something that librarians definitely teach is research skills. And a lot of faculty who learn from study make clear that they understand and appreciate that. They felt similarly about the role librarians play in teaching students about databases. Other things librarians do in the realm of teaching information literacy include providing library orientations and library instruction, providing tutorials more and more often online, of course, and producing library and information literacy related LibGuides and other websites. So as we went into our first survey, the survey we did with all of you and your staff, these were the ideas we were really focused on. Well, what can we say about how libraries impact those 7 performance measures based on what you all and your staffs tell us about how you practice embedded librarianship and how you teach information literacy to your students. And in each case, there were some more abstract principles as well as some more concrete practices or activities that we asked you to talk to us about in your survey responses. So let's talk a little bit about the responses to that first survey, the survey of all of you. I mentioned the focus groups. Those happened in July of 2014, right after the project was funded. We had tremendous participation in that. 2/3 of the library directors in the state participated in those focus groups. We then spent the fall of that year, 2014, developing the survey and testing it. And then early in the spring, early 2015, that survey was in the field, and we had a really astonishingly high response rate to that. We had 92% of the librarians and other library staff in North Carolina Community College libraries respond to that survey. That's probably one of the highest response rates we've ever had to a survey. And we very much, again, owe that to you. I think this chart, which we included in the first infographic we did, probably more than any other, summarizes really powerfully what we learned from the survey of library folks. Look first at the darkest bars there. Those bars tell you for each of those different performance measures, each of those different student cohorts, how highly overall librarians and other staff rated themselves in serving those students. And this is the percentage who gave themselves an excellent rating. So you see for college transfer students, 52% for first year progress, 47% for continuing progress, 44%, etc. Now let's look at these other two bars. If we looked at the subset of library survey respondents who rated their librarians as excellent on the practice of embedded librarianship, look how much higher the rating of overall impact on student success went. For college transfer students, it went from 52% to 73%. For first year progress students, it went from 47% to 62%, etc. Huge increase. Similarly, we looked at the subset of respondents to the library survey who said that they felt their librarians did an excellent job of teaching information literacy. Here we see an even larger difference. For college transfer students, it went from 52% to 81%. For first year progress students, from 47% to 77%. Huge increases right down the line across these various groups. So I think you all were really on to something in those focus groups when you led us to focus this research on these two ideas of embedded librarianship and information literacy. They obviously make a tremendous difference in your perception, certainly, of the impact you're having on students. Our next question was, what embedded librarianship principles are associated with excellent outreach to teachers? Another way of talking about embedded librarianship. And what we found was that 4 of those principles, if you said you practiced 4 of those principles at least monthly, these 4 were associated with excellent teacher outreach. Being more proactive in identifying the needs of your clientele, working more collaboratively, offering more customized services, and working on ongoing projects. Then we shifted gears back to those activities. What specific activities that you do as part of practicing embedded librarianship were associated with higher ratings on outreach to teachers? For all of the student cohorts, all those different performance measures groups, collaborating on instruction and working on collaborative teams on at least a weekly basis was associated with higher ratings of outreach to teachers. For those 3 non-remedial performance measures, contributing to electronic communications was also important. And for the rest of the students, the more general student population, serving in a liaison role with the departments and faculty you work with was important. Other activities were correlated with excellent teacher outreach ratings for most, but not all, of the student cohorts. Things like attending faculty meetings, participating in online discussions, conducting in-depth research for faculty, and collaborating on instructional design. Shifting gears to the student side, where we talked about teaching information literacy, we asked you how you rated yourselves on those 5 ideas, those 5 principles, and looked at how that correlated with your self-ratings on teaching information literacy. And without exception, If you rated your librarians as excellent on each of these 5 information literacy principles, you're much more likely to rate your librarians as excellent on teaching information literacy. When it came to the weekly activities associated with teaching information literacy, we had a little more scattershot results. For all of the non-remedial groups, the general student population, teaching them research skills and teaching them about databases correlated with your overall self-ratings on teaching information literacy. For the non-remedial student groups, teaching them one-to-one was very important. On the activity of providing tutorials, that was very important for basic skills students and developmental English students. The library orientation activities were significantly correlated with first-year student and college transfer ratings, and the production of LibGuides and other websites was significantly related with your self-ratings for service to first-year students. I think all of those findings make a certain amount of sense given the nature of the specific activities. Now, when we got to the end of this first survey, we did something we planned to do throughout this study, and in fact did. We took the data from the survey itself and looked at how it related to the data that the community college system reported, the institutional data they reported for the performance measures. We found that there was only one performance measure, developmental English, where the perceptions you reported in the surveys correlated with the objective data that was reported by the community college system. In the first report, we offered several potential explanations for that, all of which are very speculative. I think intentionality is a big issue. I work with all kinds of libraries, public and school libraries as well as academic, on outcome measurement issues. And the issue that looms large in all of that work to me is intentionality. I think if we want to take credit for an outcome, we have to have had some sort of conscious, deliberate, specific intention to have an impact on it. And a few of the people we talked to while we were speculating about this, this one correlation thought that it might be explained by the fact that a great many community college libraries have very specific, deliberate efforts underway and have had for some time to help this particular student population. So that was one possibility. Another possibility is that we were looking at individual student, your perceptions of student outcomes versus data on institutional performance. Very often that's a divide that can't quite be bridged, where things don't quite correlate as you might have expected them to. And of course, there's always the possibility of a gap between the perception and the reality. So we'll come back to that later on after we've talked about the other survey results, and I'll sort of tell you where we ended up on that. Let's move on and talk about the student and faculty surveys. These were the main event of this study. We began drafting these surveys very quickly after doing the survey with all of you. We wanted to have those results first. We pre-tested those surveys in the spring, and then in the fall of 2015, right through the fall, those surveys were open for both faculty and students, fall of 2015. We had a huge response. Over 7,100 students and over 1,400 faculty responded to the surveys, and we were very impressed with those numbers. In the report, you will find information that might respond to questions you have about how the students and faculty who responded to the survey might differ from the general populations of students and faculty. We really don't have time to go into that in any detail today, so I'll refer you to the report for that. Let's look at the general results of the student survey, both the overall results and then the analysis we did looking at how librarian services and library resources correlated with student success. This first chart shows how often librarians help student respondents, and this is the students themselves reporting this. As you can see, this is ranked by the at least weekly responses, use of library computers, and help in completing class assignments were definitely the standouts, particularly in terms of at least weekly service. Helping students cite resources properly and learn research skills and evaluate information quality come in pretty closely after that. Interestingly, while the at least weekly numbers decline steadily as you go across this chart, we see pretty comparable levels of reporting these activities going on at least a semesterly basis. We also asked students how often they use various library resources. We saw very dramatic differences here, as we would expect. Wi-Fi access through the library is huge. You probably already knew this. 63% of the students who responded reported using that at least weekly. 41% reported using computers and other equipment in the library. Over a third reported using individual study space at least weekly, etc. And even if you look at this on a semesterly or an annual basis, you see some very dramatic differences, most of which are not too surprising. As you go further to the right in this chart, we're talking about things that are much more specific and used by smaller subsets of the student population. We asked students to tell us how they would rate their libraries in teaching them about those 5 principles of information literacy that we took from the ACRL frameworks document. It's quite remarkable how consistently highly they rated their librarians on all 5 of these. The excellent ratings were around half or approaching half. If you include excellent and good ratings, it's around 80% or more most of the time. So students certainly seem to understand with some specificity what the idea of information literacy involves and appreciate the things they're learning from their librarians about those ideas. Similarly, when we asked students to rate their library's overall contribution to their success in pursuing their educational goals, and these ideas were reworded in student terms, but they parallel the performance measures. Again, you see quite remarkably consistent high ratings, around 50% or more excellent ratings, another 30+% more good ratings. So again, we're over 80% excellent or good ratings across all of these performance measures. We looked further into this. We looked at the ways students reported librarians helping them at least weekly, and looked at how those reports correlated with their overall ratings of the library's contribution to student success. And all of these ideas that we've already talked about, so I won't read them off to you again, all of these ideas correlated with their overall ratings of their libraries, not too surprisingly. The same thing can be said for their use on an at least weekly basis of various library resources. All of the things we asked them about correlated with their overall perception of the library's impact on their success. It's particularly noteworthy, particularly as we face some of the funding challenges we do, that the NC Live databases were high on that list, and that's something that might be useful information if you all have to go to the state legislature to defend funding for that set of databases. We looked at what they said to us about how well they felt they had been taught those different principles of information literacy and their overall ratings. Again, all 5 of these were correlated with their perception of the library's impact on them. So again, I think you all were very much on the mark in those focus groups in identifying information literacy as a critical role, teaching of information literacy, as a critical role that you play with students, and it certainly would appear to be one that they understand you are playing and affirm you are playing well. Let's move on now to the faculty results. First, the basic overall survey results, and then again the analysis, looking at the relationships between what faculty said about their use of librarian services and the use of library resources and their perception of its impact on students, both directly through their teaching and indirectly overall. There were 3 services that librarians provide that faculty members reported receiving most frequently. These included identifying and facilitating access to information resources, contributing to electronic communications between them and their students, and actually helping to deliver instruction to their students. And you see the percentages there, a little bit higher for the first 2 than the last, but overall, all 3 of these services were reported by something between half and 3/4 of faculty members on at least an annual basis. Here's the remainder of the librarian services we asked them about. Most of these, if you look at it from the perspective of at least each semester or at least each year, fall somewhere between 1/3 and 2/3 receiving those services on a little less frequent schedule, but still fairly regularly. We also asked the faculty members about which library resources they use, and these are the ones that they indicated most frequently, like students, although in not quite as high numbers or percentages. Wi-Fi access was the thing they used the most frequently, at least weekly. But looking at this from a semesterly point of view, you see that most of these resources are getting used by at least 50% of faculty members each semester. We asked the faculty to rate the library's overall contribution toward the performance measures. And again, we saw very high positive ratings. Again, about 80% overall reporting excellent or good. In this case, split more or less 50-50 between excellent and good ratings, regardless of which student cohort, which performance measure they were thinking about at the time. We asked librarians about the way, faculty, about the ways librarians help them at least monthly, and looked at how those activities were related to their overall ratings of librarians. And as with students, all of the different ways librarians help faculty correlated with their excellent ratings of the library's impact. I think it's perhaps particularly noteworthy that this list includes some things that may not happen quite as often on some campuses as others. Things like collaborating on instructional design and teaching and providing professional development. We also looked at the answers faculty gave to the questions about using various library resources, at least monthly in this case, and looked at how that correlated with their excellent library ratings. And again, everything we asked them about seemed to contribute in some degree, at least, to those excellent library ratings. You'll find charts for all of these slides with lots of bullets on them in the report. We just didn't want to bury you in charts in this presentation, and it would have taken too long to go through them all anyway. So what you see here overall is that in the perceptions of librarians and other library staff, faculty members, as well as students, there's a great consensus of opinion about the impact of community college libraries on student success. Both the particular services librarians provide, as well as the resources that libraries provide, are correlated with the perceptions of their impact on student success. And in particular, librarian services that are related to the practice of embedded librarianship with faculty or the teaching of information literacy to students. The last survey that you responded to most recently was a professional development needs assessment. We developed this survey in the fall of last year based on the overall results of the study. And again, I'm very pleased to say that we got responses from 9 out of 10 community colleges, and we're again very grateful for that high level of cooperation in responding to another survey like this. We asked about what you thought were major learning needs related to each of these concepts of information, of embedded librarianship and information literacy. And you see here the top 5 for each of those concepts. For embedded librarianship, most of you felt that your librarians need to learn more about providing professional development to their faculty, collaborating with them on instructional design, helping them find information they need, serving as liaisons to faculty, and collaborating on instructional delivery. We had over 50% on every one of those. On the information literacy side, we had majorities for finding, learning more about helping students find information in NC Live and other databases, and evaluating information quality. And we had almost half also citing the need to help students learn more about choosing, defining, and focusing topics in their own research, finding information on their own, and citing sources properly. At the behest of the advisory committee, we also asked a short group of questions about different aspects of teaching and learning that they thought you might want to endorse as needs for professional development for your staff. Apparently they were right, particularly on the first one. 85% of you felt that your librarians need to learn more about how to assess what they teach. And certainly in the assessment-oriented climate we all live in these days, that would certainly seem to be true. 3 out of 4 of you felt that it would be important to have your staff learn more about different styles of teaching and learning. And there's also a large group, 7 out of 10, who feel that librarians in community colleges in North Carolina need to learn more about using experiential learning in their teaching. A number of other questions were asked. To summarize those answers quickly, we asked if there were particular performance measures, student cohorts that librarians needed to learn how to serve better. The top 3 on that score were first-year students, college transfer students, and basic skills students. We asked what kinds of learning environments you thought would be most suitable for your staff. 3/4 called for archived webinars, 7 out of 10 live webinars like this one. And then we had a really interesting split, just about 50-50. There's really strong sentiment going on, comments as well as marked answers, very strong divided sentiment about online courses versus face-to-face courses. And having read all of the comments we got from you, I'll I'll venture to say this. I think it's clear that most of you in an ideal world would love to have staff get to experience professional development in face-to-face courses. But at the same time, most seem to acknowledge that for an assortment of logistical and funding related reasons, that just isn't practical, and we need to turn as much as we can to online courses to fill in the gap. We asked about different instructional modes that you felt were most successful in addressing the professional development needs of your staff, and 2/3 or more felt that hands-on instruction was important, and single presenter versus multiple presenter instruction was most helpful. And we asked a couple of questions about funding. Thursday and Friday were the preferred days of the week for professional development offerings, particularly in face-to-face mode. And probably no great surprise, the best time of year of all the ones we offered you was far and away summer and the breaks on each side of it. So that is a really quick once over on the results of the study. Reggie and I are both available by email. If you have any questions, in addition to ones you might want to ask right now, we'll be happy to receive those from you via email, and we'll respond to you that way. And beyond that, I would just like to add that there is now a URL for the project on the EDGCOM website. So www.edgecom.edu/librarians-and-student-success. And I'm sure Reggie will correct me if I got that wrong. We are providing links to lots of things there. The full report, the 4-page infographic about the study, which should be printable on a single 11 by 14 page that can then be folded in half, or it can just be 4 separate pieces of paper, or 2 front and back. There are also 2 articles about the study in the works. One has been submitted already to the Community and Junior College Libraries Journal, which Nora Bird edits. Another article will be submitted before the end of the week to Community College Journal, a journal which was recommended to us as one that we believe will help to get the word out about this study to community college administrators. So with that, I will pipe down and see if Reggie has anything else to add, or let her sort of take over navigating any questions you all want to ask me. Reggie? Reggie or Deborah?
Thank you, Keith, for that summary of our findings of the 3-year study. That was sort of the tip of the iceberg. I hope every one of you will get your hands on the report and go through it thoroughly, because there is a lot of detail here, and there's a lot of corroborating evidence for you to build in any kind of discussions that you would have with your supervisors, your college presidents, your deans, and so on. So I would urge you to get your hands on that. Does anyone have a response to Keith's presentation at this time? Anybody want to speak? If so, just unmute your mic and give us some comments.
And turn on your camera if you don't mind.
Yes, please do.
We just want to say thank you, and we're looking forward to reading the entire study here at Mitchell Community College.
Great.
Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome.
Hi, Libby.
Hello, I forgot to unmute myself. I'm going to move the camera around and let you see who's here with us. Dr. Cook and Chris Thurley. He's one of our English instructors.
Hi, folks.
So,
Thanks for
Right.
tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to say anything?
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you for being here.
Good job, many hours putting the study together.
Dr. Cook said, good job. Many hours put in doing this study.
Absolutely.
On the part of quite a lot of people, yes.
Absolutely. Okay, other comments? Anybody want to introduce their guests? Beverly, would you like to comment? Cal, how about you? Uh-oh, you're muted, Beverly.
Thank you. I can introduce the other librarians here with me. This is Sarah Soa.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
She's here at Mitchell with me, and this is Barb Thorson.
Hi, Barb.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions or comments? Cal, do you have any comments? Oh, there's David. David, you have any comments?
Hi, David.
Hello. I just wanted to say that it's been a great study I've been privileged to be a part of. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I just, I feel like there is a lot of material here that can help all of us as we show the value of what we're doing every day in community college libraries. So I have to say Reggie she's the one with the original idea, and we kind of started talking about this a long time ago, and it's great to see something like this as a final product of discussions of many years ago. So thanks, Reggie.
Well, thank you, David, for always being there. I don't think you missed a single meeting, maybe one, and that's it. And we've had many, many meetings, virtual meetings. So thank you, David, for your help and guidance.
Reggie, I was just noticing some of the questions in the chat box. The first, I think it's the first substantial question after all of our comments about audio connections and whatnot. Someone, Kate Fear, asked, was any demographic information collected on either the student respondents or faculty respondents? I only mentioned that in passing briefly, and you may have asked about that before I said that. Yeah, we did ask demographic questions of both groups, and we do look in the do report in the publication the differences. Well, first of all, the distribution of the respondents by those demographics, and then we also look to see how their responses to the questions may have differed significantly depending on which demographic they were from. It's the places where there are significant differences is frankly pretty scattershot, but we do report all of that in the report. So if you have any questions about that after reading it, please be in touch with me by email. And then the other question from Mary Ann, is it possible for colleges to have the raw data from just their college? Would be very useful for SACS reporting. That's a really, really complicated issue. One of the things we knew would be part of doing this sort of a study in an academic environment where we wanted to survey both students and faculty was that many of the institutions required us to go through a pretty rigorous approval process, IRB process. And many of them were very adamant that this data had to be used for this purpose and this purpose only, and not be spread around to lots of other people for other purposes. That's unfortunate in a lot of ways. I certainly can understand how having the data for your particular institution might be very useful. For most of the institutions, I'm guessing student level data in particular could probably be shared without jeopardizing our promise of confidentiality to everybody. Unfortunately, for some institutions, the response rate was low enough that that would not be the case. That if we gave you their data, the demographics, the combined demographics on them, if you ever cared to bother tracking them down, would pretty much allow you to identify them, and that would be inappropriate. So Reggie and I have talked about this issue some. I don't really know how to, I mean, it's not for me to answer the question because we were just the contractor on this study, but I think it's an issue that ultimately Reggie and the other folks involved with managing the study will need to make a decision about. The one thing that I would be very concerned about is releasing any data in any way that jeopardized our promises of confidentiality to people, because that's, in the survey research business, that's a pretty sacred idea. You know, if you tell people their answers are confidential and aren't going to be used by anybody other than you, then you really have to stick by that. So we'll certainly talk about that. I know there are one or two other people who've made similar requests, and a decision about that question will need to be made.
And we will address that. We'll talk about that. And any of you who are interested, please email me your request, and we will, as a group, talk about that. Cal, did you have anything that you would like to respond or ask?
I just think that this is fascinating information, and I know you'll be sharing it at the NCLA conference. And I hope we can get the word out broadly around the state. We'll be happy to do a blog post about it. But I think all types of libraries would be interested in this data.
Very good. And I'll be to talk with me more about that, and email me if you will, Cal, and
Okay.
we'll talk back and forth about how we share this responsibility.
Will do.
Reggie, another thing I'll remind everyone of is when my career in this sort of research began, it was with a school library impact study here in my home state of Colorado. And naive thing that I was at the time, it honestly had never occurred to me that anybody outside the state of Colorado would care about the results of that research. And boy, was I in for a surprise. So assuming we do have some success in getting articles out there, both in the library journal press and in the community college journal press, you know, hopefully that will bring some attention to the study from other parts of the country.
Great. And Cal and everyone who's participating today, if you have any journals that you would like to recommend that we submit an article, just let me know the specific title and I will be glad to work on that.
Oh, Reggie, I almost forgot to mention. If any of you attempted to print out the PowerPoint presentation that Reggie emailed you, you may have found that if you try to do it in black and white, some of the print disappears. The white on dark font becomes white on white, and then you don't see anything. So we'll be producing a black and white, or a white on black, or a black on white version of this presentation and posting that. That also reminds me to say that if you want to use any part of this PowerPoint presentation in doing your own local presentation about the study, please consider this permission to do that. You don't need to communicate with us. We'd love to know that you've done something with it, but you don't need to communicate with us in advance to get permission to do that. It's a state library and LSTA funded project, so it's public property as far as that goes. And we would be very, very happy to hear even after the fact that you had used it. Same goes for the infographic. That's very much designed for sharing the results of the study in as concise a format as humanly possible and still give attention to the bulk of the study.
Also, if anyone has any question and they don't want to ask it out, just private message me and I will read the question anonymously and I will let Keith answer or ask Keith to answer.
Thanks again to all of you for being with us today, and thanks to your guests who joined you to hear the presentation.
And thank you so much for responding to those surveys. It has been a wonderful response rate, and as Keith said, he's done many state studies and this was among the highest response rate that he's seen. So it's really great that we had such cooperation among this library community.
Indeed.
Any other questions? Well, if you do think of any questions that you have for us, always we are available via email or phone. My email address is there. I have a couple of email addresses there. Keith's email address is there, and just please send your questions or suggestions, any helpful information that you would like. Also, we are hoping that all of you will have received or will receive your printed copies. We sent 2 printed copies to each library, and then some of you requested that your presidents and vice presidents and other people in your college get these, and we sent 1 of the printed copies to each of those people. So if you do not see your printed copy of this by the end of this week, please let me know that. I want to make sure we do have a few extras, and I do want to make sure that you receive those. And Colleen, maybe you, if you're still there, you can help us to catalog this for everybody's library so that we can set those up in each person's library. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you, Keith, and thank you to our advisory committee. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone. I hope I haven't left out anybody. We appreciate your help and response with this, and we hope that this research will provide you with some good fuel for any arguments you have or any discussions you have at your college about funding or personnel or any of those things with regard to the library. So thank you again, and we appreciate your time.
Reggie, you and I can be the last ones off if you want, in case anybody wants to ask a question with a smaller audience.
All right.
Cal, thanks especially to you for being with us today. We are very delighted to have you with us.
We are, Cal, and thank you for your support. Keith, other than Beverly Ruffey, who had 2 others in the office with her, and Libby Stone, who had 2 others,
Uh-huh.
I didn't see any multiples with any of those. Did you?
Well, I mean, I couldn't see most of the people, so I have no idea. Yeah.
Those are the only two that indicated to us that they had multiple
Yeah.
attendees.
Well, and the attendee list says 11 people, but after several people's names, it says parenthetically offline. So.
Well, we had 27 people.
27. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty close to what I was guessing. Yeah. And as I said, since people know it's going to be archived, they knew they didn't have to do it live. They could wait and look at it later.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Deborah, if you're still listening, and just about
unmuted,
be 2 minutes, if you will, stop the recording. And I don't think Burton is here today so that she can put this up on YouTube.
It'll be at least next week before she can do it. She's on vacation the rest of the week.
Okay, well, good. And whenever she gets it ready, I will send the link to Shauna so that Shauna can put it up on our website.
Okay.
Best I can tell, everybody else is offline but us, as far as I can tell.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, at 1 o'clock, just cut the recording off. We've only got a few seconds left.
Okay.
And
do it now.
I mean, the record button, and then Keith and I are going to just have a sort of go over any points that we need to talk about.
Okay, but for me to render it, I'm going to have to close it out completely. So whenever y'all finish, you need to let me know.
Okay, well, we won't be long.
You want to just phone me, or do you want me to, or just leave it on? Okay.
I'll just leave it on. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.